When my dad was diagnosed, I remember that very specifically. The day I got the phone call from my mom, I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. He was in his early 50s. He had all kinds of grand plans. That was devastating. My dad and I were very close. We had a very close father-daughter relationship. It was very painful. It was very painful. It was like a mix of pain and then all this amazing stuff happening. Like I'm finishing college, I've met the person I'm going to marry. So it's, I guess, what kind of life always is. There's parallel good and bad, and that was definitely what I was feeling. The joy of getting married and the sadness of what I knew would be the loss of him at way too early of an age. I did not appreciate or understand at all what my mom went through. My mom was just in her, mid-50s when my dad passed away. I know she had her support system. I know she has a very strong faith. She's still living. I did not understand to the depth that I do now of what it's like to be in your mid-50s and to lose your spouse. I was at the University of Minnesota, just about ready to finish up my undergrad degree. One of my close friends was having her graduation party. And Terry was a mutual friend of the person hosting, and he was there. He was just kind of a life of the party type guy, just very outgoing, very fun. Oh, he was spontaneous and loved adventure, willing to take risk. Terry and I got engaged, so Terry did get to meet my dad, and then we got married. Spent a few years in Minnesota, and he's like, let's go to Phoenix. That was always on our short list of where we would like to end up, and so moved out here in 1991, and it has been home ever since. December 21st, 2018. Terry's 55th birthday. I had made one of Terry's favorite meals, which was homemade spaghetti. And so I thought, as soon as the boys get home, we'll have homemade spaghetti together and then save some dessert for after a hike of Camelback. So we sat down, had a really nice dinner together. We are not big on presents. We're big on writing notes to each other. And so my two boys, Josh and Ben, they took their notes, read it out loud to their dad, and it was a very sweet moment. And then after that, we're like, okay, let's go hike Camelback. Wanted to see the Christmas tree that they put out up on the top. We were having a very nice family time. And then when we were up near the top, Terry said, hey, I'm gonna go down the other side. So, and then Ben said, I'll go down with you. And so Josh and I returned on the same path so we could get the car, and then we would drive around and pick Terry and Ben up. Ben calls me on my cell phone, and he's like, I haven't seen Dad. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I'm at the end of the trail, but I haven't seen him. And I'm like, well, that's really odd, because usually he would be ahead. So I said, well, just give it a little time. We'll drive that way and get you picked up. And so Josh and I got in the car. And by this time now, you're talking sunset. And so we got in the car, drove around to the other side, and still no Terry. I just instantly knew something was wrong. I sensed it. So we called the police and let them know that he was missing. We haven't found him. I believe so much in community, whether you have family that live here or not. It's good to have a church community that can walk alongside you and be there for the ups and the downs. And so one of the first things I did is I texted my home fellowship group. Within minutes, it seemed like within minutes, they all drove to the trailhead and met us there. A search and rescue what started from there, and now it's dark. And whatever, I have no sense of time. It must have been a couple of hours later. They came down. They're like, there's no sign of him. We need to come back when the sun is rising. I think I was in shock. I didn't know what to think. The next morning, my home fellowship group, plus even a few additional friends, were at the trail with me. As time passed, there was a helicopter, and with each additional vehicle, I knew things were not looking good. And then they came down and they said, "We see your husband from the helicopter," and we took a remote body temperature, and he's dead. I do remember very detailed the moment of being told that he was dead, and then just feeling my body give and just being on the ground. I remember that like it's yesterday. They're talking to you about resources and grief, and you're like, my head's not there at all. I'm just sitting there stunned. Where my head is at, how do I tell my kids? I mean, you have no choice. Sometimes you can say, I don't want to address a difficult situation, or I'm going to stuff this one over here and not deal with it. There's no choice. It's like I had to front on tell them the last news I would ever want to tell your children. So drove home, got Josh and Ben out, and told Josh and Ben, and they were in shock. And I mean, the mood of the house was, of course, very, very sad. I mean, it was very heavy in the house. At that point, the friends and the church family, friends, was increasing. And so the word was like, hey, let's just go meet at Lynda's house. So then we were sitting, I remember, in the living room, and what had become a pretty big circle with, again, really just amazing Christian friends and leaders that helped me get through it all. And so we're sitting there, and then the next thing I know, there's a knock on my door. And I go to the door, and it's a police officer, and they said, your husband is alive. He was in bad shape. He had to have lots of surgeries. He took a hard fall on his head. He was not in good shape. At the hospital again, I was never alone. There were people from church, part of my small group, my extended friends. There was a full community of people always there, praying for us, praying with us. Going in and talking to Terry. I mean, I don't know what he could hear or not hear, but spending time with him. And again, this is over Christmas. So I mean, people were giving up their Christmas time, and that's something that I don't take lightly. And just really, when I think about it, it's like, wow. I mean, all the people that were there day to day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after. It's amazing. Probably the morning of the 24th, his body started showing signs that he was gonna be passing away. They said, don't pull the oxygen on Christmas Day because there's no reason to have your husband's passing at the same time as Jesus' birth. So then it was scheduled for the 26th. And then everyone left, and it was just Terry and me. I asked the nurse, can I play some music while we were together? And they're like, of course you can. The song that played was I Surrender. And I felt it both for Terry, that it was time for him to surrender. And I just felt myself also as just a reminder that I just needed to surrender all this to God also. It was just a really powerful moment. And then it happened, and he very quickly passed away peacefully. So. the feeling of walking into a business office, or it could be anything, it could be walking into a grocery store where everyone's living kind of their normal life and not just another day. And I'm walking in and going, my entire life changed. I'm a widow, I'm single. I remember some new depths of loneliness and sadness and quietness. And so I would come home and sometimes just sit in the chair and you can't really do much just because you just can't. I had some girlfriends that I knew, one in particular that was a hiking and running enthusiast and was always doing various events to challenge herself, like a half marathon or some hiking event where you hike for a lot of hours. And she said to me, "Hey, Lynda, do you want to join in?" And I'm like, yes. I was ready for the challenge and ready to have something take up my time. And so I was so grateful to have that outlet of both friendship and exercise. It sustained me. So right after Terry passed, one of the guys in the home fellowship group said to me, "Do you realize how many accidents there are at Camelback and how many deaths there are? We need a safety sign, and we need a safety sign that memorializes Terry." I get a phone call from the city, and the city said to me, "You know, we've learned that a safety sign with a personal story is much more powerful and has a better chance of being read. May we use your husband's story?" And I said yes. People are like, "How can you look at it? How can you hike it?" Which I continue to do. I just seem to be okay with it. I don't know if that's a reflection of acceptance, of understanding, just that it did happen. I accept that it happened. I believe he's in heaven. I can look to the future and I can look at today and to the future in a hopeful manner, thanks to my faith. And it just seems to make it okay. In my instance, particularly the last 4.5 years, when you do just pause and reflect, it does hit you. It's like, wow, I did go through a lot. But throughout that entire time, I never found myself questioning God, why, or being upset with God, or saying, this faith stuff, I don't need it. It's not helping me. My life's too hard. It did the opposite. It really did bring me to my knees. I did not appreciate or understand at all what my mom went through. Well, because of my story, now I can parallel to her story. It is in our nature when things get tough to just we need to be strong, and then having a faith that gives you that foundation to understand why you can be strong and why you can be hopeful, and to know that there's going to be good down the road in some way. Don't see it, don't understand it today, don't feel it, but there will be good. I knew, God is the consistent. God's your hope, your peace. At the end of the day, it's the joy of knowing we have a faith that will bring us to heaven and eternal life. I'd had ups and downs, of course, but nothing like I've had in the last 4.5 years. And it's the last 4.5 years that I have had the most growth. I'm going to use what I've gone through to honor Him and to encourage others. And that's what I want to do. I want to use that. And I'm excited to use what I have experienced and really use the rest of the years that I'm given to encourage others and to bring hope to other people.